I'm starting to buy some of the hype in one position group in particular. There's a common denominator, it seemed like, from Saturday's scrimmage with, we talked about it on Monday, but Chris, your intel piece from that, with Jim Harbaugh talking about some of the situational stuff they did on Monday, same with the BTN analysts. And then again, Tuesday, Jim Harbaugh reiterating that the last couple of days, the defensive line in some of those situations at the goal line, in short yardage situations, was getting the better of the offensive line. He said maybe 51%, but it seemed to be kind of a consensus. And, we've heard a lot about Chris Jenkins this camp. Now he's trying to take that step to be an elite pass rusher. Zach Zinter called him that already. And Zach Zinter, one of the best guards, Dane Brugler from The Athletic thinks he's the best guard draft prospect this year, is saying that Chris Jenkins is, kind of getting the better of him as he was knocking off the rust early on during fall camp. But Mason Graham up there, Jesse Minter thinks Kenneth Grant's going to be somebody that everybody knows about this year. Rayshon Benny gets talked about too, the way he's progressing. And then you have the edge guys as well. I'm starting to buy some of the hype in this defensive line, and they're going against a really good O-line. You have to note that they're mixing and matching up there, and we'll talk about some of the position battles. But either way, I think it's impressive, kind of what we've heard about that group.
Yeah, Cam Good too has really come on from what we've heard. So you've got 5 guys there on the defensive among the defensive tackles, and the freshmen are playing well as well. They're going to have to wait their turn, but you're going to see maybe a couple of those guys get some snaps and still be able to hang on to their red shirts. But to me, I picked that group, guys, and it was a tough one in the Football Preview magazine coming out of spring. Everything that we'd heard about the defensive line and Mason Graham's improvement, and man, has he taken a step. And that guy was already a stud last year. Chris Jenkins and how far he's come, and then the edges. I had them number 2 as a position group behind the running backs overall on this team, and I thought, should I really put them above the offensive line with those 2 guards coming back? And then I switched it a couple weeks ago into camp, and then I switched it back, and I said, you know what, this defensive line I think is legit. So if they can get some guys rushing the passer up from the edges, it sounds like Jalen Harrell's playing well. It sounds like Josiah Stewart's going to be a beast as a pass rusher. So you get those guys are going to work, split some reps there and see what happens. And then Braden McGregor, and I still think Derek Moore has the most upside of any of them as a pass rusher. If you had to pick one, guys, who would you pick as the leading sacks guy? Somebody actually asked that in chat today. I said it could be one of 4 guys. And you know what? And I think they're going to get some more from the interior too. Who would you pick, AB?
Man.
Yeah,
that's tough because they're going to go 4 deep, and it's not like, even you look at last year, and there were a couple guys clearly ahead in terms of the snap counts, but all those guys pretty much played about the same amount of snaps. So it's really just, who goes out and has a 3-sack game, and that puts them ahead. And for me, I think push comes to shove, I think it's probably Braden McGregor. I think there are a lot of plays last year where it just felt like he was, maybe a fingertip away or just that close to finishing off a play. And, it wasn't, again, he'll never be able to avoid the Aiden Hutchinson comparison. And I make it here in the case of, it took Aiden until his senior year to learn how to finish plays. And I don't think they could be the same caliber of guy. I think you're talking about a guy who's, maybe on your Mount Rushmore of, modern Michigan players. But I think Braden McGregor, something just screams breakout year for him. And I liked what we saw last year. Just need to take it that next step further. And I think he can.
Clay?
I got a hot take. I think the guy with the best chance to lead this team.
Let me guess. Chris Jenkins?
No, but
okay.
I heard Angelique with Borton and Crawford last week saying his goal is to get 7 or 8 or something like that.
Which might lead the team. Okay,
right.
So what's your hot take?
Absolutely might. Mike Morris at 7.5 last year was second in the Big Ten. So that could be, one of those numbers. You're not going to have 14-11 like Ojabo or Hutchinson and Ojabo. 2 years ago, you might. Josiah Stewart might have the best chance to lead this team in sacks for a couple of reasons. One, he is, billed as a great pass rusher. It sounds like he's doing that already during camp, especially when you talk to the offensive linemen who are saying, yeah, he can really, he's not the biggest guy, but he can get low. It's kind of like Drake Nugent at center almost, on the other side of the line where he's 6'1", maybe a little bit undersized, but his pad level really helps. So I think Josiah Stewart, but on top of that, he's going to be out there for most of those passing downs. When Jesse Minter was asked about the edges last week, he kind of talked about Braden McGregor and Derek Moore on that one side, it's kind of a toss-up. We'll see. Maybe one guy will start one game, next guy will start the next. But with the other side, he kind of said Josiah Stewart, really good against the pass. Jalen Harrell, really good against the run, becoming a more complete player. They're both going to play. I could see that side really being a true rotation based on situation. So I may go with him. Who do you have if you had to pick one out of the four?
I almost did. And the only reason I didn't is because I think Jalen's going to get some of those opportunities too. I don't think they're going to take him off the field on all of them. And I think you're going to see Josiah Stewart playing some more on rundowns as well, at least in the early going. So I picked Derek Moore just because I love his upside. I think the kid is an absolute animal. We saw what he did to one of the tackles last year and running him over in the spring game, actually not last year, but in March or April. And he was so close last year so many times and getting in that backfield and disrupting things. And now he's quicker. He's 20 pounds lighter. I think that he's going to be one of those guys that could approach 8 or 9, and I think that could be enough to lead this team.
I like it. Yeah,
but I came close to picking Stewart too.
Yeah.
The fact that we all named 3 different guys,
and it could be one of 4. Yeah, literally. Yeah. So, which is fantastic. And watch it be somebody like one of these interior linemen coming out of nowhere. And how are you going to double team Chris Jenkins when you got Mason Graham in there? Now, Mason Graham has improved dramatically as a pass rusher. And what we heard, the intel that we provided, you can read it at the Wolverine.com, is that the defensive line got much better. They were really disruptive in pass rush when they were in there on Saturday in that scrimmage. So you're going to have to pick your poison, guys, on this team. I can't wait to see them unleash that defense on some of these teams.
It's a great point. We've seen the last couple of years, Mozzie and Chris Hinton, then Mozzie and Chris Jenkins last year. But now you may have a true pick your poison spot where last year it was pretty obvious. You're going to double team the guy that is built like a house, Mozzie Smith. But now you got, a freak in Chris Jenkins and Mason Graham there who seems to have taken the next step. So I think you're right. It's going to be some tough decisions for, how they're going to play that opposing offenses.